ఇంటర్మీడియట్ విద్యారంగంలో అగ్రగామి మన NSR ఇంపల్స్ ఎడ్యుకేషన్ ఇన్స్టిట్యూషన్. ఐఐటి జేఈఈ అయినా నీట్ అయినా తిరుగులేని విద్యా సంస్థ NSR ఇంపల్స్.
Hello students, now we were discussing about the chapter of photosynthesis. Now in photosynthesis we discussed about the early experiments, the scientists and the discoveries we have studied. So far we discussed about who are the scientists and how they achieved in discovery of requirements of the photosynthesis. Now let us continue with that. So once if you understand about the scientists and discoveries, now let us study what is the site of photosynthesis. What is the site of photosynthesis? Meaning what, which is the place where photosynthesis takes place. What is the site of photosynthesis? Meaning photosynthesis takes place in which site, which location, which site the photosynthesis is taking place. That is what we are going to discuss today, that what is the site of photosynthesis. So we all know it very well. A site of photosynthesis is nothing but a green colored parts of the plant. When you take the green plant parts where there is a deposition of chlorophyll, where there is a deposition of chlorophyll, right. Now the main focus is nothing but green plant parts. Why photosynthesis occurs in green plant parts? Because we find very important pigment which is nothing but we call chlorophyll. Now this chlorophyll occurs where, you know it very well, the chlorophyll is found in the cell organelle called chloroplast. In the first year cytology we studied about a structure of the chloroplast, in which how thylakoids are arranged one above the other, how thylakoids are arranged and how do they form the grana and all that, right. So chloroplast structure we discussed, and importantly in the chloroplast what is the pigment present is called chlorophyll. Now mostly if you take where photosynthesis occurs means generally we say leaf is the place. Mostly, highest rate of photosynthesis, the receiver of sunlight, generally we say that is nothing but what? The leaf, right. Now in the first year anatomy you studied about TS of leaf, adaxial epidermis, abaxial epidermis, in between what you find are called mesophyll cells. So in case of mesophyll cells, if you look at in mesophyll cells what is present is nothing but chloroplast. So see guys, everywhere the concept is being connected with the first year chapters. So we are discussing cytology, that is a first year chapter. In cytology the points what we have discussed are the basis to understand second year concept. Anatomy we discussed, right. In cytology we discussed about complete structure of chloroplast. In the anatomy we discussed about transverse section of the leaf, dicot leaf, monocot leaf, and mesophyll cells generally they contain chloroplast. Again if you come back to cytology, what you studied? Highest number of chloroplast, highest number of chloroplast when you take, that is nothing but mesophyll cells, where each mesophyll cell contain 20 to 40 number of chloroplast. Did you remember cytology? I gave you one chloroplast for one cell, that is chlamydomonas. Did you remember? In cytology class in the first year I told you that about the we have discussed about the structure of chloroplast. At that time I told you one chloroplast for one cell, example is chlamydomonas. Maximum number of chloroplast, highest number of chloroplast is found in case of mesophyll cells. Each mesophyll cell contain 20 to 40 number of chloroplast. Did you remember? You need to recollect it. That is why I say first year basics are very important. Now so what is the site of photosynthesis means, finally we have come back to chloroplast. Finally we have come back to chloroplast. Now let us talk about the chloroplast. When you look at the diagram structure of the chloroplast, when you say, so this here I am drawing the chloroplast. So you know chloroplast is a double membrane structure, right. So what I am drawing here, I am drawing the structure of chloroplast. The site of photosynthesis is nothing but what? Chloroplast. So this chloroplast, as I have drawn here, this is nothing but a double membrane structure, right. That means you have an outer membrane and an inner side you have another membrane called inner membrane. So we find both outer membrane and inner membrane. So this is called double membrane bound cell organelle. Just quickly let us recollect about the structure of chloroplast, what we have discussed in the cytology, right. Now within this chloroplast, if you look at, you know, sausage shaped and all that, a second largest cell organelle, what we have discussed in cytology, did you remember? I asked you the question and I have given you very important point. Second largest cell organelle is chloroplast. Schimpfer, A.F. Schimpfer is a scientist who has discovered the chloroplast. Now let us go inside the chloroplast. Now inside the chloroplast, what you can see here is nothing but thylakoids. Thylakoids are arranged one above the other like this. So let us take like this. So all thylakoids are arranged one above the other. So when you take here, so when you take the thylakoids as they have arranged one above the other here like this. Now here you can find, of course down also you can see so many thylakoids. For our understanding study, let us take one layer. Now, so here each one is called as what? Each one is called as a thylakoid. So there are arrangement of a group of thylakoids one above the other like a files of coins of arrangement. You can see the stalks one above the other like the files of coins of arrangement. All together, what do we call this? This is called as grana, or we call granum. So this is very important. Grana is very important, and each file of coin, what you can see, they are called as what? Thylakoids. Now the connecting structures, what you can see here, they are called as Stroma Lamellae. What you call? Stroma Lamellae. Right. So the connecting structures, what you find here, they are called as Stroma Lamellae. And the fluid, what you find here, proteinaceous fluid, what you find here. Now the fluid itself is called as what? Stroma. The fluid, what you find here, it's called stroma. Very important. So this is nothing but stroma. Right. Now apart from this, what else you find in this? If you look at, first of all, let me tell you very clearly, grana is the place where what occurs here, it's called as a light reaction, and stroma is the place here, what occurs here, it's called a dark reaction. What occurs here is nothing but a dark reaction. So we will discuss about granum is very important, stroma is also very important. Grana is the place where what occurs is called light reaction. Stroma is the place where what occurs is called as dark reaction. Right. Now if you look at in this case, look at here, we even find what are called as, these are called as starch. So this is what you find here, it's called as starch. Even you can find here, in case of this, you find ribosomes. Did you remember in the first year we discussed that stroma, the composition of the stroma in the cytology chapter, we discussed stroma contains DNA, RNA along with the ribosomes. Did you remember 70th type of ribosomes? Which type of ribosomes you find? 70th type of ribosomes. Did you all remember a eukaryotic cell organelle? Within that we find a prokaryotic cell organelle. Chloroplast is a eukaryotic cell organelle. Within that, what is a prokaryotic cell organelle we find? Prokaryotic cell organelle is 70th ribosome, not the 80th ribosome. So, cell within a cell. Chloroplast is a cell. Within that we find one more cell. Cell organelle within cell organelle. Cell organelle is chloroplast. Inside we find one more cell organelle. What is that? We find ribosomes. 70th type of ribosomes are present within the chloroplast. Right? Now apart from this, even we find here and there some droplets. So this droplets what we find here and there, they are called as lipid droplets. Generally they are called as what? Lipid droplets. Here and there you find some of the droplets which are called lipid droplets. And can you tell me what is the most and very important point which we need to recollect it when we discuss about chloroplast? Can you tell me the most important 1 or 2 points what we discussed in the previous earlier classes of second year and the most important point what we discussed in the first year? So, the 2 more very important points are there. Can you just let me know? Guys, think about it. Now, the first clue or what I will give you is biomolecules. In the first year in biomolecules, we discussed very important point regarding chloroplast. Guys, can you recollect it? What is that? In this stroma, I am talking about the stroma. In stroma, you find most abundant protein, what you find is nothing but rubisco. Where is the location of rubisco? In the stroma of the chloroplast. Very important. Did you remember? Right. So, what is rubisco? Rubisco is considered as a most abundant protein. Most abundant protein in the entire biosphere, it is nothing but rubisco. Rubisco is nothing but what? Ribulose. Ribulose 1,5-biphosphate. In short form, this compound is called rubisco. Okay. So, this is a compound name and this is an enzyme name. Rubisco is an enzyme for which compound? This is the compound. For this compound need to take the action and complete the chemical reaction means this particular compound need the enzyme called rubisco. So, what is the compound? Ribulose 1,5-biphosphate. This requires a protein. A protein is acting as an enzyme. What is that enzyme? Rubisco. What is this rubisco? Ribulose biphosphate. Biphosphate, C for carboxylase, O for oxygenase. Ribulose 1,5-biphosphate. Let me write the enzyme name here. C for carboxylase and O for oxygenase. Guys, I hope it is very clear. Even if I write down, I hope it is very clear. Right? What is that rubisco? Ribulose 1,5-biphosphate. C4 carboxylase, O is nothing but oxygenase. So, we call ribulose 1,5-biphosphate carboxylase oxygenase. It is nothing but the most abundant protein found in the entire biosphere, that is rubisco. You studied in biomolecules, right? So, where it is present? It is present in stroma of the chloroplast. The proteinaceous fluid what you find is called stroma. Stroma is a place which undergo dark reaction. Of course, so stroma contains a very important enzyme called rubisco, very important. So, what is the other thing which I expect you to remember, guys? Transport in plants. Second year chapter, transport in plants. Very recently we completed, right? So, what is the other notifying very important note point about chloroplast which we discussed in transport in plants? Can you answer me? Where we discussed chloroplast? Yes. So, here if you look at the chloroplast, what you call symplast. Symplast when you take, symplast also happens by cytoplasmic streaming. You remember cytoplasm keep moving from one place to other place. Initially it is observed the movement of chloroplast, where in hydrilla leaf. In which leaf? In which plant? Hydrilla leaf, hydrilla plant, right? That is one point we discussed. What else we discussed in transport in plants? We discussed one more very important point. Guys, I will just erase this part, you know. So, in transport in plants we discussed one more very important point. What is that? They are nothing but, very importantly, they are nothing but porins. Did you remember? Right? What are porins? So, if you look at here on the outer membrane, here and there you find the minute openings, right? The minute openings, the minute pores which are present. Where the pores are present? In the outer membrane of chloroplast, through which a small size protein can enter. A small size protein can enter. They are called as what? Porins. So, this small size protein can easily enter into the porins. So, this is porin. Do you remember? So, here on the outer membrane of the chloroplast, my pores what you can see are called porins. We discussed very recently in transport in plants. And what is the function of these porins? The function of porins is a small size protein can enter across the porins, right? And what are the other examples we discussed? A double outer membrane of chloroplast and mitochondria. Both are semi-autonomous cell organelles and also in some of the bacteria. What are found? What are found are nothing but what we call porins, right? So, here mainly we are discussing about the concept called as what? Photosynthesis. We are discussing the concept called as what? Photosynthesis. Now, if you take the photosynthesis itself is called as a biphased reaction . Why it is called a biphased reaction? Because the photosynthesis includes the two phases. It includes the two phases. What are the two phases? The first one is called as a light phase and the next one is called as a dark phase. First one is called as light phase, next one is called as dark phase. Okay. So, when you take the light phase and the dark phase here, now if you look at what did I said here, light phase is also called light reaction. Where the light reaction happens? Light reaction happens in the granum. So, the light reaction or we say light phase or light reaction, where it occurs? It occurs in grana thylakoids, granum thylakoids. Very important. It occurs in granum thylakoids. So, here this is a thylakoid. What it occurs here is nothing but what? A light reaction. Okay. Now, coming to dark phase. Where the dark phase occurs? The dark phase occurs in stroma. Where the dark phase occurs? Stroma. So, here stroma contains enzymes which are required for dark phase. Stroma contains the enzymes and these enzymes are required for dark phase. Are you getting me? Right? So, here stroma contains what? Here this is stroma is proteinaceous. Stroma is proteinaceous, that means it contains even enzymes. Enzymes are very much required for dark reaction. Enzymes are very much required for dark reaction. Now, during light reaction what happens here is, it takes the carbon dioxide and water. It takes both carbon dioxide and water, right, and produces and synthesizes what are called ATP and NADPH. What is that it produces? It produces energy. Light reaction, what it produces? It produces the energy. Energy is produced. What is that energy? ATP and NADPH. So, it depends upon the light, that is why it is called a light phase, or we call light reaction. So, you all understood one thing very clearly, no? Where the light reaction occurs? Light reaction occurs in the granum of thylakoids, thylakoids of granum. Where the dark reaction occurs? Dark reaction occurs in the stroma. Stroma is proteinaceous in nature. Stroma is proteinaceous in nature, and moreover it contains enzymes that is very much required for dark reaction. Right. Now, what is the site of photosynthesis? Is nothing but chloroplast. Now, this is very clear to you, right? So, why it is proteinaceous? Why it is proteinaceous? Just now we discussed, right? In this chloroplast, what are present? In the chloroplast, what are present? Ribosomes are present. Which type of ribosomes? 70S ribosomes are present. They come with mRNA. What is produced here? Nothing but they synthesizes proteins. Who is involved in synthesis of proteins? Whenever you get the question that who is involved in synthesis of proteins means 70S ribosomes within the chloroplast, and this, because of this, stroma is proteinaceous in nature. Try to remember that point, right? So, let me erase this chloroplast. Now, you have clear phase that where light reaction occurs, where dark reaction occurs. Right. So, here whenever you take this, what happens here? It will take carbon dioxide from atmosphere, water is there and produces what? ATP and NADPH. Now, in this case if you take splitting of water occurs, water will split and produces oxygen. Very important. Splitting of water occurs and produces oxygen. Now, this depends on light. Light phase depends on light. That is why it is called as light phase. That is why it is called as what? Light phase, right? And what it produces? It produces oxygen. Now, if you take the same chloroplast, once again I am telling, in the chloroplast what are present? Thylakoids are present. This is thylakoids. So, these thylakoids, what happens? So, absorbs sunlight. What it will do? It absorbs sunlight. Whenever sunlight is falling on the thylakoid, what is this? This is sunlight. Sunlight is falling on the thylakoid. So, whenever sunlight is falling on the thylakoid from the sun, the light is falling on the thylakoid and it also takes carbon dioxide. Then what happens? Water splitting occurs and produces oxygen. It depends upon the light. As it depends upon the light, that is why it is called as light reaction. Finally produces what? ATP and NADPH, means energy is produced. Along with the release of oxygen, energy is produced. Now, then what happens? It enters into dark phase. Dark phase is nothing but what? Stroma. Now, in this case, the carbon dioxide reduced to sugars. Carbon dioxide, it will get reduced into sugars. Now, where there is a synthesis of sugars? Here in dark phase. In dark phase, what you find? In dark phase, you find synthesis of sugars. As there is a synthesis of sugars, that is why dark phase is also called as biosynthetic phase. Dark phase is also called as what? Biosynthetic phase. So, this is nothing but thylakoid, it produces ATP and NADPH. Using this ATP NADPH, now this ATP NADPH enters into stroma. What I am writing? ATP NADPH enters into stroma. In stroma what takes place? In stroma a dark reaction takes place. So, what is happening in stroma here? Now, dark phase does not need light, meaning what? It is independent of light. Remember one thing, dark phase does not mean that it happens in dark. No. I hope you are getting me. Dark phase does not, why it is called dark phase means don't ever imagine it happens in the dark. No. That's not the meaning for dark phase. Dark phase it's called because it does not need light. For the process to happen, it does not need light. It may happen in the light or it may happen in the night. Okay, but only the thing is why it is called dark, but it does not need the light, meaning it is independent of light, right? That means independent of light when you take, that means these all statements most of the people will get confused. Guys, that's why I am writing clearly all the three statements, because most of the times people will get confusion with the statements. Dark phase, it does not need light, that means it happens in the light as well as in the dark. It independent of light, even though it is not dependent on the light, but here it depends on the end products of light. It depends on end products of light. What are the end products of light? By the end of light reaction, these are the end products. By the end of light reaction, what are produced? ATP is produced, NADPH is produced. So, ATP and NADPH are the end products of light reaction. So, here thylakoid produces what? ATP and NADPH. ATP and NADPH are utilized where? In the stroma for dark reaction. That means, what are the end products here? End products are nothing but ATP and NADPH. That means here it utilizes ATP and NADPH in the synthesis of sugars. I hope you got it. That means a dark phases utilizes end products of light. What are end products? ATP and NADPH, which are produced in the light reaction, are utilized in the synthesis of sugars in the dark phase. That is why it is called a dark phase. It is independent of light but depends on end products of light. That means whatever ATP, NADPH which are produced as an end products in the light reaction are utilized in dark reaction for the synthesis of sugars. As sugars are synthesized here, that is why it is called as bio. Sugars are very much responsible for, very much essential for all living organisms to survive, because we take plants as a food. Some of the plants we take as a food, some of the plants are a very good food source for animals. So, for living organisms, synthetic phase means dark phase will come. In dark phase there is the synthesis of sugars, that is why it is called biosynthetic phase, itself is called as dark phase. So, in photosynthesis we have two phases. What are they? We have light phase and we have dark phase. Let us look at clearly. Light phase or light reaction where energy is produced, carbon dioxide and water are utilized, splitting of water takes place and that produces oxygen. End products produced by the end of light reaction are ATP and NADPH. Now, this light reaction depends upon the light, okay, and absorbs the sunlight, Water splitting occurs. What produces is oxygen along with that ATP and NADPH. This ATP, NADPH utilized by stroma in the dark reaction. So, the next phase is dark phase, also called biosynthetic phase. It occurs in stroma. It contains enzyme required for dark phase. Right? Now, carbon dioxide is reduced to synthesis of sugars and it does not need light. That means it may happen in light, also happen in dark. It is independent of light, that is why it is called dark. Okay, and but depends on end products of light, that is light driven process. Sometimes dark process is also called as light driven process. Light driven process. Why it is called light driven process? Because light is observed, light reaction takes place, followed by it is driven with this. So, it is called light driven process. What is that? Dark reaction. So, it depends upon end products of the light, utilizes both ATP and NADPH in the synthesis of sugars. So, that is why it is called biphased reaction, meaning it find with two phases, light phase and dark phase, right. Let us continue. So, if you take here importantly where this light phase and dark phase both are happening, light phase and dark phase both are happening where? Within the chloroplast. So, chloroplast is mainly responsible for happening two phases, light phase as well as dark phase. Both are happening where? Both are happening within the chloroplast. That is why chloroplast itself is called as site of photosynthesis. It is called as what? Site of photosynthesis. Now, if you look at what else are very important. Now, if you look at the functions, if you can remember the functions, what are the functions of the chloroplast we discussed? Now, if you look at so, if you look at here, I am just writing here, chloroplast, what it contain? It contain importantly pigments. What is the pigment it has? The pigment what it has, it is called chlorophyll. Okay, what is the pigment it has? Chlorophyll. And apart from chlorophyll, so chlorophyll if you look at, even we find carotenoids as well as xanthophyll. Carotenoids as well as even we find what are called as xanthophylls. So, chloroplast contains important pigments for the process called photosynthesis. So far you know, according to Julius Van Schack, what we have studied, you know, the chlorophyll photosynthesis happens because of the special pigment. It is not mentioned as chlorophyll. Today we know chlorophyll is located on the special body called chloroplast, right. So, chloroplast contain the pigments. Which pigments? Chlorophyll is the main pigment, along with that we find carotenoids and also we find what? Xanthophylls. Now, if you look at the chloroplast and chlorophyll, if you look at the chloroplast and the chlorophyll here, what else you can study here? Chloroplast also involved in protein synthesis. It is also involved in protein synthesis. And what is the major protein we take? Rubisco. Where the rubisco is present? It is present in the stroma. Where it is present? It is present in the stroma. It is called, chloroplast is also called semi-autonomous cell organelle. It is called semi-autonomous cell organelle. Why it is called semi-autonomous cell organelle? Because chloroplast itself, it contains a double-stranded DNA, along with that even it contains RNA, including the enzymes which are required for photosynthesis. Even it includes the enzymes which are required for photosynthesis. Because of double-stranded DNA, it undergoes the process called as self-duplication. It undergoes the process called as self-duplication. So, in cell division chapter, In first year we have cell division chapter. In cell division chapter what we have discussed? Karyokinesis, cytokinesis. Karyokinesis is what? Division of nucleus is called karyokinesis. Division of cytoplasm is called cytokinesis. During cytokinesis, which cell organelles undergo fission and get distributed between two daughter cells? Chloroplast and mitochondria. Because at that time mitochondria has double stranded DNA, it has its own genetic material. So, it will undergo self duplication. So, it will become double and divides. That means here chloroplast divides by fission. Chloroplast divides by fission. Means it breaks exactly into half. So, here what is the important thing which you need to recollect it back? I am just talking here in cell division. In cell division what you studied? Karyokinesis. That is, what is karyokinesis? Division of nucleus, that we are not talking, followed by cytokinesis. So, during cytokinesis the chloroplast will undergo fission. Why? Because here what is present? Double stranded DNA is present like this. It will undergo duplication, undergo replication, it becomes one more copy like this. So, this will become one more copy and it divides into two daughter cells, two daughter chloroplast. One daughter chloroplast goes to one corner, another daughter chloroplast goes to another corner. So, that is occurs at the time of cytokinesis. Chloroplast divides by the process called fission. It is called semi-autonomous cell organelle. It has its own genetic material, that is double stranded DNA.